Hey everybody, welcome back to the 9 Essentials of Web Success. We're on our 5th session, Paid Search Strategy, Adwords Deep Dive. For those of you just joining us in our series, I'm Marjorie Gates, Digital Marketing Manager for Broad Street Consulting. I've been working with Broad Street for about 6 years. I'm AdWords certified and I manage the majority of our clients' AdWords accounts. I'm excited to be helping Tom out with the session and to help answer any questions that you have about AdWords. Just as a reminder, I'll be monitoring the GoToMeeting chat board during the webinar, so if you have any questions or comments, feel free to type it in the chat and we'll address it at the end of the presentation. And with that, we'll get started. Thank you all so much for joining us. Here now is Tom Sliker.
Hello, this is Tom Sliker. Welcome to the 9 Essentials of Web Success. This is the session on paid search strategy, and we're going to talk specifically about Google AdWords quite a bit. Okay, just a reminder, what is Web Success? We are a program that will help you to understand how you can use Google and many other web services and capabilities out there to be #1 on Google, to dominate your local market, sell online. We work with clients for more than 10 years to stay connected with your customers, reach new customers, increase sales, and improve your bottom line. That's kind of what we try to do. We're looking to give you as many opportunities as possible to grow your business using these techniques. If you have not seen previous versions of the Web Success program, please check out at least session #1, which is the intro. There's a link. You can go to the websuccess.guru, and that will get you to our Web Success page, and hopefully you can find the videos there. You'll see links to all the previous videos there. All right, so just kind of a review of the Web Success strategies. What we talked about in previous notions was how we can use these 9 different areas to build your business, to grow your business, reach new customers, bring in new customers, increase sales, etc. And so we've talked about several of these, and today we're going to focus in on this idea of pay per click. So the idea is that you go out to Google and you search, and if you click on an ad, that's what we call pay per click. This encapsulates not just Google, but also Bing and Yahoo, which are pretty much managed by Bing. But today we're going to focus mostly on Google AdWords. And this is the other diagram that we've been using. And the idea here, remember, is we've got people out there on the internet in the bottom right corner. They're searching for information. They're looking for somebody or something to answer their questions or meet their needs. And they type something into the internet, and through Google search, through other means, social media, etc., they find you, and maybe they're interested enough to follow you, pay attention to the content that you've produced on the internet. Maybe you have some things to say and they're checking it out, and then ultimately they see that you have a product to sell and they're interested, and they become your customer. So that's kind of the sequence of events. Sometimes that happens in just a few minutes. Sometimes it takes weeks or months to deliver on that. Today we're going to focus, you can see on the Bing and the Google AdWords down there in the corner. All right, so whoops. We do have downloads out there on broadstreetconsulting.net/downloads. I am getting ready to replace the search strategy document with 2 separate ones, one that's specifically for pay-per-click and one for search engine optimization, which is for organic search results. So how to be #1 on Google. That was something we addressed a few weeks back and talked about it at length. But the 2 main things are, either through organic, meaning that Google has determined out of all the web pages on the planet that this particular page is the most important or most relevant to what this person is searching about. So that's organic search results. And then AdWords is the pay-per-click mechanism that we can use through Google that allows us to basically purchase real estate at the top of the web page, at the top of the search results page. The tools we use here, Bing and Google AdWords, okay? And we're going to talk really exclusively about Google AdWords. But really 95% of what I say about Google also applies to Bing. We're going to talk about two main things today. We're going to talk about the measures of success. So these are some of the data that are available to you when you get into Google AdWords and you start running campaigns. You'll find that there's some data points that I'm going to try to define, and we'll see examples of how we look at these data points and how they can help us make good business decisions. So measure of success, clicks, impressions, right? So how many times has your ad appeared? That's impressions. How many times have people clicked on it? That's clicks. And then we have a click-through rate, which is out of 100 times that your display, 100 impressions or 100 times that your ad is displayed, what percentage of that time would people click on it? And so you'll see that that's a really critical data element. Cost per click, that determines how much do you pay Google when someone clicks, and we use that based on an average because it literally is different every time your ad is displayed. Could be a few cents different than the previous one, based on competition, based on other people's budgets, based on many things. Position, are you ranking number 1? Are you at the top of the list, or are you number 2, or are you number 3? Where are you ranking in your position? And so we'll see how that can affect things. Conversions. So we define a conversion as something that meets a particular objective, right? So that could be a completed order on your e-commerce site. That could be submitting a form or clicking on a link, whatever it is that, whatever you set up to be your conversion objectives. And then we have conversion rate. So again, out of those 100 people that see your ad, or out of those 100 people that click, what percentage are becoming customers or filling out forms or whatever it is that you're specifically looking for. And then what is the cost per conversion? So ultimately, this is about bringing in new customers, and you want to be able to measure your costs as carefully as possible. So that's one thing we'll do. We'll look at kind of get into a little more depth on those, and so you can understand those numbers. And then we're also going to talk about AdWords extensions, right? So in addition to a basic ad, Google has a number of these things they call extensions, which we'll get into, but call extensions, site links, call outs, structure snippets, and location. So we'll talk about them in more detail. All right, so this slide I've shown in a previous session, but the question is, what is Google AdWords? And it's an advertising platform to help drive interested people to your website. So again, this is based off of keywords. So this is all about what people type in to Google when they're searching for something. And the example here is somebody needs a window repaired, and so they type in window repair. So in the area that's kind of yellowish, that's what we call our paid ads, right? So those are at the top, and the paid ads are based on whatever's presented through Google AdWords. And in this case, this shows a Google AdWords account where if you're a window repairman, you focus on certain keywords. So window repair, window replacement, broken windows, etc. And so Google AdWords is about putting together my search, basically an introductory service between my search and your advertisements. And so where they overlap is what we call keywords. So I type in window repair, you are targeting window repair, and so I get to see your ad. In addition to keywords, there are things like location. So very likely if you're doing window repair, you're not advertising to the whole country, you're advertising just to your locality. So that's an overview of how Google AdWords works. This is another slide I showed before, but what I wanted to show you in this particular search results page, this was a Mitsubishi Fuso FE transmission. I wanted to make it clear what parts of this results page are organic. If you look at the top there, that top is what they call Google Shopping. And so that's paid space. The next one where it has the little word ad is also paid space. And then the first organic is down here, which is Busby Truck Parts. So one question that's to me has always been very interesting is, well, what are people most likely to click on? You know, do people click on the top thing, the first thing that in front of their eyes? Well, the answer to that is that 85% of clicks on Google go toward organic results. So people have learned to kind of bypass the ads in many cases, unless that ad specifically addresses their needs. And so in this case, of the organic searches, most people are clicking on that very first organic. 53% are clicking on the first organic ad. But today we're going to focus on the 15%, which is the paid ads, okay, which is still a lot of people searching, okay, and again, your chances of being clicked on go up if you are extremely targeted and your ads match specifically what this person is looking for. All right, so once you get into Google AdWords, it's broken down into campaigns, okay? So a campaign is where you set things like a budget, you set a geographical location. There's a few other things that you do at the campaign level, but the idea is that we're gonna spend X dollars in this market, and then within that, you set up ad groups. So you might have one ad group for a particular product and a different ad group for a different product or service. And so I'm going to give you some examples of how we do that and how beneficial it is to break down in as many of those groups as possible. And again, the idea is targeting as closely as possible what people are looking for and giving them what you have to offer that meets that specific need. So most popular measures. So one of the things I want to go through is these different measurements. We're going to look at each one of these one by one. And with that, I'm going to introduce Marjorie, who is our Google AdWords certified consultant, and she works very closely with a number of clients to work on their Google AdWords and evaluate current situation, make recommendations, and make improvements and continuous improvement on the use of their advertising money. So Marjorie.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, we hear you now, Marjorie.
Okay. Sorry about that, but I have a few charts here to show you guys. One of the biggest goals in AdWords is to keep your cost per click low and your click-through rate high. Click-through rate, as Tom said earlier, it's the rate at which users click through to your website. Google wants to show ads that are relevant and likely to be clicked on. So if you have a high click-through rate, they'll reward you with a lower cost per click. Measuring your click-through rate will help you gauge which ads and keywords are successful for you and which ones aren't. There are several different ways to improve your click-through rate. The biggest thing that you can do is have specific ad groups with keywords and keyword phrases that really match the ad that will be showing. So if your keyword baseball caps shows an ad for snow masks, you're not going to get many clicks and your click-through rate will be low and your cost will be high.
To demonstrate what Margie was discussing, which is we want to have an alignment between the search terms, in this case, a Mitsubishi Fuso FE engine. So somebody's typed that into Google. We want to have an alignment between that and our advertisement. So in this case, somebody's looking for a Mitsubishi Fuso FE engine. And if you look at this advertisement, it has the keywords in the ad. So you can see Mitsubishi Fuso and engine all in the title. If you look at the URL, the address, it also includes Mitsubishi Fuso and engines. The actual text there, call now, and it even has Mitsubishi Fuso FE. So it's a really good match here. And so when Google is trying to figure out who to put at the top of the list, to who to be put at the very top of the screen, one of the things they're considering is this matchup. And this is an excellent match. And so what will happen is, because we have such an excellent match, we'll have a tendency to get ranked higher and to get more click-through rates. And the more that our click-through rate improves, the more likely we are to get a discounted rate. So we could actually be ranked #1 here in the result, and we could actually be paying less money than the person who's coming up #2. Okay, so that's why Marge was talking about the click-through rates go up and the cost per click typically goes down, because Google wants the best performing ad at the top of the page. And so we're going to bid just enough to be considered, but at the same time, if we're the best ad for the job, Google will put us at the top of the list, even for a lower rate. And so we want an alignment between our search terms, our advertisement, the content of our ad, and our landing page. So this is an example of a landing page specifically for Mitsubishi Fuso engines. And so what you see is a very clearly defined, dedicated landing page that's all about Mitsubishi Fuso engines. And so this when we're competing, we're effectively competing in these ads with our competitors who also want to advertise. But what we find is very many times people are not specific enough. So they might just have something out there for Mitsubishi Fuso parts, or something more generic than specifically engines. And so the more specific we are, the more likely we are to get clicked on, and the better rate we get over time. And then other thing is on the bottom of that page here, this showing just the fact that we have quite a bit of content talking about Mitsubishi replacement engines. And with that, I'm going to let Marge continue with some more of these charts and just kind of describing some of these key numbers.
Okay, so this next graph we have for you is from a client who wasn't spending their full budget. We made a few changes, like adding new campaigns and bid adjustments, and as he began to spend his budget, of course, his number of clicks went up as well. If your cost goes up, but your clicks don't, something you're doing isn't working. So you need to analyze where your budget's going and figure out why you're not getting more clicks. Our impressions versus cost chart is taken from a display campaign, which is image ads that target people based on interests, websites visited, demographics, and a lot of other things like that. We mostly run these campaigns for brand awareness, not for high click-through rate or conversions, but for high impressions. Our first graph on this slide shows clicks versus conversions for a client who thought they were tracking conversions and just weren't getting a whole lot. Turns out they weren't tracking every form of conversion that they were getting. They went from getting less than 30 conversions a week to seeing over 100 per week. This shows how important it is to make sure you know what you're tracking and constantly are checking to make sure your tracking code is working. The next graph, conversions and cost per conversions, is just another way to look at your metrics and see why you want to make sure that you're keeping only the keywords and ads and landing pages that have a high click-through rate and are also converting. You want your cost per conversion low so you save money, and ideally you would want a conversion from every click. You want to keep conversions high and cost per conversions low. This average cost per click versus conversions graph shows you that you can lower your cost per click and still increase your conversions. And this is your goal. That's all the graphs that I have for you. Hopefully that kind of shows you how all those metrics, measuring all those different metrics can help you really improve your AdWords and get more for your money.
Thank you, Marge. And I wanted to just go through a couple other things, just a couple more looks at some of the numbers. So when you're doing analysis of a Google AdWords account, this is kind of what it looks like. So in this particular case, we got a client with several different campaigns. One thing I want to point out on the left side here is that where it says display ads, you can see that different icon there. That means it's a display campaign, which is very different than a search campaign. Mostly what we're talking about today is search campaigns, where people are searching in Google. Display campaigns are those things that pop up when you're at weather.com or at a news site and you get a little ad, and very often it's based on someplace you've been recently and something you've looked at. Those are display ads. And so we're going to talk, we're again mostly focused on pay-per-click and search right now. But anyway, so as we go across the top here, what I wanted to just bring to mind is a couple things. One is, of course, you're setting your budget, as I said, based on the campaign. And then based on that campaign, by the way, the budget is based on a daily rate. So, for example, we usually recommend people start at like 10 bucks a day, which is $300 a month. But you can start really anywhere. So what this is showing you is how much you've spent, how many impressions, and how many clicks. Okay, then that you got that click-through rate, which is very important. So you can compare and you can see, wow, you know, the construction equipment rentals, you know, has a 9% click-through rate. Portable toilets is only at 4%. So there's some things we can do to improve. Right now the average click-through rate for ads is about 2%, and so we're at you know, in many of our ads we're at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%. It's extremely good. We've gotten a lot of commendation from Google about that, and that's something we strive for every day, is to continue to improve our click-through rates. And then average cost per click, you know, that's how much we're paying for each of those clicks. And then also, of course, we measuring conversions. So out of that, how many of those converted, and then we track our conversion rate. So these are some of the numbers. This is kind of the way that we look at things. Another thing I wanted to mention was this limited by budget. So, you know, Google is always trying to give you opportunity to spend more money with Google. And so in this particular case, these are extremely successful campaigns. And what Google's telling us, if you're making money on these campaigns, you can, you know, open up the spigot and get a little bit more traffic. So, you know, we are likely to do that. If again, these seem to be profitable and worth keeping and worth what we're spending on it. And so there is an opportunity there to just increase our budget and hopefully continue the same level of success. This was just another different view. Actually, I'm going to go to the next one, which is zoomed in a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you a little bit more. This is showing specifically ads, and where I sorted these different ads by click-through rate. And so this is the ones that are showing the best click-through rates. And so in this particular one, you know, specific ad for tent rental. So you can imagine what keywords we're targeting for that. It's probably things like tent rentals or rent a tent. That kind of thing. But if you're looking for a tent, you're very likely to see our ad for tent rentals, and you're going to get directed to a page that's just about tent rentals. And so you can see that's been very effective in that you know, we get a very high click-through rate on those. So people who are looking for tents are likely to see our ad, and they're going to click through. So anyway, it's just another view to show you how you can look at some of these ads and get some really important information about people's behavior and how your ads are performing. There's another one just to point out, the handicap accessible restrooms. Again, it's a very, very specific keyword targeted, but very important. And so once they see that, they get sent to our handicap ad group, which of course has ads specifically for that. All right, so now I want to look at these things we call ad extensions. So once you decide to run an advertisement on Google, you've targeted your market, you know where you're going to do it, you know the search terms that you're focusing on. We have these opportunities for these other things called extensions. And basically, the thing about extensions is that they're almost exclusively managed by Google. So you effectively enter information that you think would be helpful to get clicks or more information about your products and services, etc. And what Google will do is it'll programmatically decide which things to show at what time, and then it'll measure the success of these one against another. So I'll just give you an example of these call extensions. So a call extension is where, if on a mobile device, when somebody looks at your ad, they're going to have a call button right there. And so these are extremely effective. If you notice, there's a click-through rate of 10% on these different numbers. And so that's a call extension. Definitely, it's one of those things, you set it up. You don't know necessarily that Google's going to display that call button every time. Sometimes they don't. They may be, you know, display the call button for one of your competitors at sometimes, and not yours. But it's there, and when they decide to use it, you can see that we're getting a much higher, a very strong click-through rate, near 10%, and a conversion rate that's, you know, extremely good. So that means they're clicking on that button. All right, there's something called site links. So basically what a site link extension is, where they're linking to specific pages on your website. And these are examples of those site links. They're actually links. And again, Google will decide when it's appropriate to show these, and they get a very good number of click-throughs as well. So, and then I wanted to show you something called a callout extension. So callout extension is a little bit different in that it's really just these phrases like free shipping, 24/7 customer service, price matching. These are little sentence fragments that you can put in. And here's some examples on Buzzbees, where we have like the our location, helpful hints, contact us, etc. Well, here's an example of the report that you get when you get into Google AdWords. You list out all the different call outs, and then you can look at how they're doing. And you can see, for example, call for a free quote, has a click-through rate. When they display that one, it's a 7% click-through rate. But South Carolina Rentals is only getting 3% click-through rate. So obviously, call for a free quote works really well. So one of the things we do typically over time is we might remove or pause, lesser performers and try to emulate some of the higher performers. So it's all about getting clicks. It's another one called a structured snippet. And so again, in this example, under Acme Electronics, you can see underneath, you'll have this thing that says services, tech support, e-waste, and computer repair. So these structured snippets are specifically about different, like in this case, you can use things like models, types, etc. Maybe services as an example, but you basically list these things, and they're going to list these things as they see fit, based on the search, based on what they think would be most effective. And it's just another thing that Google will do for you and help get more clicks. And then I want to talk about the location extensions, the last one. So if you are a store that's tied to multiple locations, in your Google My Business page, you should have an entry for each of your locations for your various stores. So in this particular case, our customer here has like 3 or 4 locations, And depending on the location of the person searching, depending on what context, they're going to display 1 or more locations for this particular ad. And so it actually, again, this has to be tied to your Google My Business account. So hopefully you set up your Google My Business. We talked about that in an earlier session. So you have a My Business listing, and then it will show an actual location here. And this also helps with click-throughs. So in review, we talked about a number of the key measurements and metrics, and we talked about the number of Google AdWords extensions, and focused on pay-per-click today. So with that, we are completing our number 6 session, AdWords Deep Dive, and appreciate you listening today. And we look forward to another session next week where we'll get deeper into SEO, content, and pay-per-click. Thanks. And do we have any questions, anything out there, Marge, to respond to? All right, I'm not hearing you, Marge. Hold on. Yeah, I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
What are the benefits of using a Google forwarding number?
Okay, so we didn't talk about that much, but on your numbers, when we went to the site extensions, you can, or the call extensions, go back to that. There you go. So you can use your own real number there, or you can get a Google number. one of the main advantage of using a Google number is that when people call that number, it'll be tracked as a conversion, and it'll be tracked. You'll know where it came from, so you'll know that that call came specifically from a particular ad or a particular group or whatever it is that you're set up for. So I think. Yeah, go ahead, Marcia. Yeah, please.
So with a Google forwarding number, you can track more conversions, which, as we discussed, is really helpful to, all of your metrics to make sure your ads and your keywords and all that are working. You obviously want to keep around the ones that are getting conversions, and your Google forwarding number is going to make sure that you're getting those people who are on a desktop and see your phone number. They're going to call that Google forwarding number rather than call your regular number, and now we can track those calls. And then it also gives you a lot more details about mobile users.
Very good. That was the point I was looking for. So, yeah, having that number for desktop users, especially people that don't click it, but they type it into another phone, you'll know that it came from that ad, even though they didn't click on the ad. Very good. Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for attending. Thank you for listening, and wishing you web success.